February 24th, 2025, Dubai, UAE. The glass towers of Business Bay shimmered in the early morning heat as Ethan Mercer stepped out of his silver Mercedes, straightening his tie with one hand and tucking his daughter's crayon, drawing into his jacket pocket with the other. Sophie had drawn it for him the night before, a yellow sun, a stick-figure man, and the words "Daddy is a superhero" scrawled in her 7-year-old handwriting. He carried it everywhere, not for luck, for perspective, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from, because no matter what happened inside those towers, he was always going to walk back out as her father. That was the one title no one could strip from him. Ethan was the CEO of Nexara Holdings, one of the fastest-growing investment firms in the Gulf region. He had built it from a single leased office in Jumeirah, with 2 employees and a business plan written on a borrowed laptop. 8 years later, Nexara operated across 4 countries, employed over 300 people, and managed assets worth billions. He had done all of it while raising Sophie alone, after losing his wife to a sudden illness when Sophie was just 18 months old. People in the industry respected him. Some feared him. A few, it turned out, wanted to destroy him. Marcus Holt was Ethan's chief operating officer, a polished man with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. David Crane was the firm's legal director, quiet and precise, the kind of man who smiled only when he was about to win something. The third was an outside investor named Roy Stavros, a billionaire with deep connections across the UAE financial sector. All 3 had been meeting in private for 6 weeks. Ethan didn't know it yet. The plan was elegant in its cruelty. They had fabricated a series of financial irregularities within Nexara's internal ledgers, altered documents carefully enough to pass a surface-level audit, and anonymously tipped off the Dubai Financial Services Authority. The goal was a regulatory investigation that would freeze Nexara's operations, tank investor confidence, and give Marcus and David the leverage to push Ethan out. Roy Stavros would then swoop in with a restructuring offer, effectively. Value. By the time Ethan realized what was happening, they calculated he would have no allies left to fight with. What they hadn't calculated was Priya Nair. Priya was Nexara's head of internal audit, a woman who had worked with Ethan since the company's 2nd year. She was methodical, loyal, and possessed a photographic memory for numbers. On the evening of February 23rd, while working late in the Dubai International Financial Center office, she noticed a sequence in the accounting system that didn't sit right. A series of transfers, timestamps that didn't match the approval trail, a document revision history that had been partially wiped but not entirely erased. She didn't alert anyone immediately. She pulled the backup data from an offline server archive, cross-referenced 3 months of records, and by midnight had mapped the entire falsification. She called Ethan at 12:47 in the morning. He was sitting in his apartment in downtown Dubai, a cold cup of tea beside him. Sophie asleep in the next room, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. He listened to Priya for 11 minutes without saying a word. Then he said, "Send me everything. I'll be in the office by 5. He didn't panic. People who had spent years managing chaos, school runs and board meetings, doctor appointments and investor calls, grief and growth all tangled together, don't panic the same way others do. They move. By 5:30 in the morning, Ethan had reviewed every document Priya had compiled. By 7:00, he had contacted Nexara's external legal counsel without informing Marcus or David. By 8:15, he had submitted a formal self-disclosure to the Dubai Financial Services Authority, presenting the actual records alongside a detailed forensic analysis of the altered documents. Self-disclosure before an anonymous TIPS process changes everything in regulatory proceedings. It demonstrated transparency and flagged the manipulation before it. Could be framed as Nexara's own wrongdoing. The move was precise, bold, and entirely unexpected. Marcus arrived at the office at 9:00, relaxed and confident, expecting the day to unfold according to his plan. he found Ethan already seated at the head of the boardroom table with the legal team. The complete audit trail spread across the screen, and two representatives from the regulatory authority present via video call. The color left Marcus's face before he even sat down. David Crane's phone had been ringing all morning. He declined every call. Roy Stavros, 2 floors away in a separate meeting in the same building, received a message from his own legal team at 9:17, advising him to say nothing and cooperate fully. All 3 men had spent 6 weeks building a trap. In less than 9 hours, Ethan had walked around it entirely. The investigation that followed was swift, with Nexara's own documentation serving as primary evidence and Priya's forensic reconstruction holding together under scrutiny. The case against the 3 conspirators was clear. Marcus and David were removed from their positions by end of day, their employment terminated for cause. Roy Stavros faced a separate inquiry from financial regulators regarding his role in orchestrating the scheme. Nexara's operations were never suspended. Investor confidence, rather than collapsing, was quietly reinforced once the self-disclosure became known among key stakeholders. Ethan stood outside the office that evening as the sun dropped behind the skyline of Business Bay, the water of the Dubai Canal catching the last orange light of the day. He reached into his jacket and pulled out Sophie's drawing, the stick figure. Superhero had a crooked smile and arms that was slightly too long. He thought about how she had handed it to him the previous night with complete and total certainty that her father could handle anything. She wasn't wrong. He picked her up from school that afternoon exactly on time, as he always did. She ran to him across the courtyard and grabbed his hand without asking how his day was, because she was 7 and her day was far more interesting than his. He let her talk all the way home. That night, after dinner, bath, and bedtime, he sat down and allowed himself to feel the weight of everything that had happened. Not defeat, not even triumph exactly, just the quiet, solid understanding that integrity is not a strategy. It is not something you perform under pressure. It is either built into you or it isn't. And for Ethan Mercer, it had been built through every hard year, every lonely evening, every moment of choosing to do the right thing when no one was watching, simply because Sophie was always watching. That was the power Marcus, David, and Roy had never seen coming, because they were looking for weakness in the wrong places. If you believe in stories of real courage, integrity, and the strength of a parent's love, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds you that goodness always finds its way back.